and this is the meeting of the Westport Long-Term Building Committee. This meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts' March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC Chapter 30A, Section 20. On March 29th, 2023, Governor Healy signed a supplemental 2023 budget bill allowing remote and hybrid meeting options for public bodies through March 31st, 2024. This meeting is, 2025, and this meeting is being recorded. I'll call the meeting to order at 6:19, and we'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from September 20th, 2023. I believe that these minutes have been circulated.
Motion to approve?
I have a
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Seeing none opposed, the motion carries. We'll move on to the next item, which is a discussion item about the old high school and town building evaluation facilitator selection criteria. So I sent the committee a draft RFP, or at least the details of an RFP for selecting a facilitator to help guide this committee in evaluating the potential uses for the old high school as well as municipal buildings at large. I recognize that we had several individuals here who were in a previous meeting and may not have had a chance to take a look at this in depth, but what this, I guess the, pass that down to as well. No worries, we just got started here, so. So I have some details here as far as what we're asking a facilitator to do. Of course, this committee was given a mandate and a budget of $200,000 to select a project manager or to look into uses for the old high school. I am confident that this would not require the use of the full $200,000, thankfully, to begin this process here. So the first question I would actually like to ask Jim, do we know for certain what the process is now? As in, would this have to go through the full waiting period, or is this something that can be streamlined as far as the selection of a facilitator goes?
So I'm not sure. I thought originally we were looking at a facilitator, just the facilitator alone.
Which is, yeah.
We could probably do without going, I think the cost would be relatively minor. If we get in more involved with a project manager type facilitator, I got to double check. I did check
Okay.
before, but I want to verify.
So I should, it was pointed out to me earlier that there are a couple of objectives here that it might not be clear that the objective is to have a facilitator help the committee create some of these reports and evaluations. And so we're not necessarily looking for someone to do all detailed cost estimates and construction estimates and whatnot. It's more about helping.
As long as you get that re-edited, I think that obviously, as we talked earlier, that wouldn't fly.
Yes, no, absolutely.
I mean, wouldn't it be like the facilitator's supposed to sort through all the stuff that we already have? Because basically we have an onslaught of information.
Well, actually, I've worked with people, these people, and they're not gonna sort through what they're gonna do if they're really good, is they're gonna show us how to sort it through in an efficient manner.
Okay.
And these people, I mean, some of them are quite amazing what they, you know, and they work for the biggest corporations in the world doing this kind, taking meetings like this and making some sense out of it in a timely, efficient manner. I've been so impressed with when I've seen these people do this.
Well, if we could do that, it would seem remarkable.
Well, which leads me to the question of how do you find the right, like, how does this get published, the RFP? I mean, what,
So,
how do you source this?
Well, I gave you 3 names already.
Oh, good, okay.
so exempt would be contracts with architects, engineers, or related professionals.
Who have worked with these people.
So I'm assuming this would be a related professional and it would be exempt from going for the full procurement process. But if we have a general scope, we can do it a couple of ways. We can post it on the central register and we could give it to people that we think may have some interest. Or we could just give it to people that we think may have interest.
Okay.
And have them either come before the committee or submit a proposal.
Okay.
If the committee's agreeable to this, I would like, I think it would be in our best interest to do both, to submit it to the central registry as well as the individuals that had already been named and anyone else that you or other members of the committee or town departments would know of that might be suitable for this. I don't see any harm in casting a wide net. Now, if we get 100 proposals, I might feel a little differently, but something tells me we're not gonna get that many. So,
So I think we'd be looking the end of November, beginning of December, if we really push it to get the proposals in.
okay. So I know we're all, the committee came up with or acquiesced, I guess is probably the better word, to a pretty aggressive timetable that I had put on there, but I'm hoping that we can still fulfill at least most of the objectives, even if we're looking at.
Well, we can try. I
November,
mean,
December.
you know, we can try our best to get as close as we can.
Absolutely. I would like to ask any members of the committee if there's anything on first reading here that jumps out, that anybody would object to or would want to add to. Again, that one, or there's a couple edits where it's clear that this is asking an individual or an entity to aid the committee as opposed to create all of these, estimates and whatnot. I guess the timeline as far as putting in any kind of boilerplate information that needs to be when it comes to, legal requirements on the minimum qualifications, if there's insurance requirements, anything like that. And I can send you the Word document too. I sent the PDF,
Okay.
and I'll send you the Word document for that. But again, I'd just like to open it up if there's any other concerns about this on first reading. And also, I would say, if possible, when we talk about our next meeting, maybe we can meet next week, to maybe earlier in the week, if we're able, even if it's just a hybrid or online meeting, to approve the full
Chris, can I ask you
one to go
a
out.
question about this?
Yes, absolutely.
When you get to Roman numeral 2, somebody could read that, you're gonna have a financial analyst doing it. I know that's not what was meant here. But detailed review of implications, maintaining, they're not gonna do that. They're gonna help us and find people, go through all the data to do it, but they're not gonna do this.
So my thinking actually in that case was as Mandy had mentioned earlier, kind of a review of some of the stuff that had already been done, because there was some of the, but I take your point on that. That might be casting a little bit too wide of a net.
I would only add that the buildings that you're asking them to look at should be specifically identified.
Yep.
We don't have
Yes,
them,
okay.
we don't have the, under that same Roman numeral, comprehensive exploration of potential outcomes for each municipal property. We should define what those specific properties are.
Can I fill in on this? 2B a facilitator's not gonna do this, they're not gonna assess any financial information.
So I guess that's my question. This is, a lot of work went into this, is very good, but I think we need to determine, are we looking for a facilitator to guide us through the process? Or are we looking for a consultant to evaluate all the different options? And if they're gonna evaluate the different options, they're gonna evaluate the town hall and annex, and they're gonna come up with general cost estimates.
And that's a building analysis.
um,
I mean, didn't we already kind of do that a few times already?
I think we have some general ideas on these buildings. I think we have some more detailed stuff on the old high school, what the costs are.
So what I will say is that I believe that in order to come up with feasible scenario recommendations to the town at the end of our term here, this is stuff that does need to get done. I do take the point that this might not necessarily be the facilitator's job for it. So, but I guess my question is, what's the best way to proceed, knowing that really this information is we're going to have to get this information if there's going to be a real plan or recommendation to be able to present to the town. So,
So I think this is actually probably more in line with what the Warren article asked. And I guess the question is, do we want to go along that line, or do we want to do something less?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
So your idea of a facilitator, what you're thinking of, is more of like when you work on a strategic plan for somebody and everybody, you bring all the players into the room and you all start shooting stuff out and you talk and then they boil all of what you thought and said into an idea, right? That's the facilitator that you're talking about.
Those people do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Okay, but that's what you're kind of thinking is what we need that we can get for cheap money.
Well, cheaper and efficient, you can move real fast with something like that.
Right.
2 or 3 sessions and hopefully get the committee going whatever direction you want to go.
Right, okay.
I mean, that would be my sense.
This looks like it's more of again, hiring someone to review all the buildings, come back with us with reports. Right?
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
And
Just wanted
those
to make sure
reports,
I got what we're doing.
I mean, there's a wide range that those reports can do. They can be general estimates that are, back of the envelope type estimates. They can be detailed estimates. I mean, we could spend an unlimited amount of money if we really
Oh,
wanted to on
yeah.
it. But we could also
Kicking
get
the
some
can down
general,
the road like we always do.
we could get some general information as well. And we have some good reports already. There's a lot of information out there that,
Well, even if the facilitator could digest those reports, perhaps, and say, okay, well, I was not
Actually,
able
what they're
to.
gonna do is different. They're gonna put up a whiteboard and they're gonna say, Manny, what do you think about that report? And you go, well, I read this, and you go, then you write down what Manny said. Then you write down what you do. And then you go and you boil this around 2 or 3 times. It's quite an interesting process. And out of it, all of your ideas, concerns, if you don't know, you say, well, Jesus, I gotta go find out about that. And I advocated it with Jim way back when, and I said, we don't have time to go hire a project manager, and we shouldn't, because we don't have a project. We got 10 projects. If you had one project, you said, we're gonna build a new school, and the town wanted a project manager, then you do something like
This is to streamline our ideas,
Yes.
our head into one.
so really, you're talking more of just kind of like a single or maybe 2
that.
workshops.
3 names, I said, yeah.
Situation. Okay.
Yeah, and then you might say, Jesus, that person was really good, how about coming back in a little while?
So in your experience and the people that you've recommended, and you're saying it's a quick process, what do you think the cost of something like that is? What do you think the cost of something like that's gonna come
One of them
back at?
quoted 10 grand.
Okay.
So I said, let's double that. Let's call it 20. But it's really,
And it's something efficient and quick and,
Well, that's what I was thinking. If maybe been looking at this the wrong way. If we're talking just a single or 2 workshop sessions, and then creating a more detailed one to find a consultant.
now,
maybe
I'll tell you,
that's-
if they were good and the committee worked with them, because there's a 2-way street. if the committee worked with them, you'd be amazed how fast it goes. And then new things might open up, and in the middle of that, you start bringing in all these other people who want to use the building, but you got some methodology to evaluate it. Anyway, I'm enough, I'm done.
No, I can agree with that.
Yeah,
That does make sense.
it's really the launch pad to really
Right.
set us up for what the major next steps would
Yeah.
be. So at least someone is gathering the data and can put together a real report with the issues involved, and then we can take those pieces
You know,
and
I
build
have
on.
to tell you a funny
Yeah.
story, because I'm Irish, and you don't see that. I was with a facilitator for lunch, the day before yesterday, who used to go out with me, so she knows this town. And I said, Linda, we got a job for you, because she's terrific. She's worked for GE and all these big corporations. I said, why don't you come down and do real quick facilitation? She says, because I know you people, and I know.
Nothing's quick.
Jim, let me ask you this. If we were to completely switch gears and put this detail, shall we say, on the back burner and aimed for a facilitator to come in for a session, we'll call it a workshop, would that also be exempt from having to go through the
Yeah,
process?
I just
Somebody we
think
could hire, like,
For a number of
like
reasons.
that?
One's the amount, and I think it qualifies under related professionals.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm
I
just
can
trying to
see
think
the
of how-
importance of 2B, for example, because a lot of people will say, oh, you know, you gotta, sell it, get it back on the tax rolls. But, people don't always understand that, it's a limited size lot, there's a lot of wetlands, there's public water supply, there's this, that, and the other. But they're hearing it from individual people. It would be nice to have a report that includes those things, that this is what, the feasibility study is on subdividing the property into smaller lots. This is what it equals. It's someone putting together a report that has all of that information. The, challenges of constructing the new athletic fields, the alternative of where the school administration building is gonna go. I mean, we can say all of those things individually, but I think for the benefit of the townspeople and people that are, watching this, it's important to have those facts in front of them so that we have a basis of comparison. So I certainly understand why you have these things in there. Perhaps it's a little bit premature and we need to get to some of the first steps before that, but I think that analysis needs to be done, most of which is already done, but I think it needs to be
Sorted through.
At least
sorted
sorted
through
through,
and
yeah.
formalized. Because I think there's all this little bits and pieces of information out there, but it needs to be put to paper and formalized.
To your point, my thinking in including an evaluation of a potential sale was
Right.
exactly that. I think we all on the committee have expressed interest in doing something with the property, but it's important to present to the town
Correct.
all the details and give some reasoning as to why we've come up with this conclusion.
Right, that we have
So,
looked at the alternatives
Yes.
and what the different scenarios are.
exactly.
And this is why this choice is the best choice, whatever that choice may be.
Absolutely. So,
I do like your scope of work. I like your. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
as I
going to
said,
use it as
my-
a model for some of my other ones, so if you can send me the Word
That's good.
document, that would be great.
I will, absolutely. Yeah, my thinking when I was creating this was, these are all things that need to be done in order to meet the committee goals no matter what. But I definitely agree. Maybe
Here's a
we'll
suggestion.
start from,
And it's assertive. Stop right here.
just stop at it's not a bad idea.
And where?
It's not a bad
I
idea.
don't know where,
On
what
the
you
first
referred to.
page.
Oh, okay.
The main thing that I want to avoid is what has happened, what I believe has happened with some of the other architectural and code surveys and reports that have been done. They're very comprehensive in a very narrow
But
scope.
you're not gonna get a
So I
report out
want
of
to
these
make
people.
sure, well,
What you're gonna have to process.
yes, but my point is I want to make sure that even if we're at the facilitator level where we're putting all the options out on paper, I want to make sure it's all the options and not just a very narrow scope, so. But that, yeah, actually, that, you know, if we're talking about, again, doing kind of the workshop style thing with a facilitator, that might not be a bad way to proceed and just make it just the first page. Would it, because of kind of the change of scope here, would that speed up the process at all, do you think? Or is it
Yeah, I
still-
mean, I would just contact 2 or 3 people.
Okay,
And one or 2 of us could call them and get a feel for them and have them come down and sign them up. It's something they do all the time.
okay.
You know, we got to participate. We're the ones that can make this process work or not, but the facilitator can just guide us along.
Facilitator would stop us from spinning our wheels, too.
Yes.
Yeah,
That'll be helpful.
the first candidate I talked to is from New York. She's got an attitude. I really liked her. I started this sentence, she goes, wrong. She didn't say no, John, she said, wrong, and moved right on to the next sentence. She would be great, to tell you the truth.
That may be exactly what we need in this case, so. Okay, so what I would propose going forward here is that we take, I do like the idea of just limiting it to the first page here. We'll interface with you to get whatever
Okay.
legal details need to be done, and would anybody be, does anybody have any availability to perhaps just get online for a quick meeting during the day next week at all, or does it have to be an evening?
I can.
So my thought is I just want to make sure the committee votes on the actual, or, you know, the actual full,
If you
so,
give it enough notice, a couple days or whatever.
okay.
No Tuesdays. I can't do Tuesdays.
Not Tuesdays, okay, good to know, good to know. So maybe, even if it ends up being Wednesday night, my thought was.
I mean, you can still do it Tuesday, and I just won't, I mean, I
No,
feel
it's
very
fine.
confident that
Well,
you guys can do it without me. I'm just telling you I can't do Tuesday.
Understood.
Oh, no.
Just want to make sure we have a quorum here to get this going. Is the selectmen's meeting next week or
No.
this
No,
week?
we just had
It was
one.
just, of course, okay, gotcha. So, so maybe even try to do Monday. If I get, yeah, sure have plenty of time to do
We
that,
just
right?
schedule,
So-
what time's ours, Monday?
We just said
4:15.
4:15, yeah.
Here's a suggestion, never do Monday, because you don't know what's gonna happen over the weekend.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, if not Monday, not Tuesday, we'll go with Wednesday then, and it'll probably be, probably be the same time then. But the point being, just to have the committee approve a complete RFP for the facilitator, and then hopefully, you know, get a workshop date together to move forward on that, so. If,
I mean, couldn't we just figure it out right now? And then you just, you know, we just mock that up and that's what it's gonna be and we don't have to have a meeting.
so we could just do a motion to say this is the details.
Changes we're
The
gonna make.
general,
Change it, yeah, the
leave
general
chair
language.
to edit it, if any minor edits need to be done.
That's, yeah, well,
Feel
that's
we're
true.
close,
If
I
you could
think.
I
I
guess
can
I
work
would-
it as well.
entertain such a
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah.
Skip a
If,
meeting.
easy enough, all right.
Yeah.
Could do that.
I'll move, make a motion for whatever you had
The revisions.
described, yeah.
I think I heard you say that you were moving to give the chair authority to make final edits and
Yes.
disseminate the RFP in
Yes.
conjunction with the town administrator. Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second,
Is there a second to all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And hearing none opposed, the motion carries. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion of the second document that was sent out, which is a draft of questions to give to the town department heads as to their workspace conditions, square footage needs, wants, understanding, of course, that you're dealing with dealing with a best case and worst case scenario as opposed to just wish list. Now, I would say to Jim here, I do want to make a note somewhere on this survey that this is not in the same vein as like capital improvements, for example. This is more of a just a kind of work conditions type situation.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Is this survey got anything to do with the old high school? Or is this the whole town?
This would be the department's, basically the department, we would send it to, maybe not
Town hall,
all
the
department
annex.
heads, but certainly those located in the.
Council on Aging.
Yes.
I think Town Hall Annex, Council on Aging.
The purpose of it is to do, when all this information's gathered, what's this gonna help? That's what I'm confused about.
Square footage.
Square footage. At the end of the day, it's about square footage and needs, and also infrastructure IT needs. Reason being, based on, really just based on the walkthrough that we conducted, and based on our knowledge of what the condition of certain other town buildings are, I see the potential for conversion of small amounts of the building, of the old high school building, to fit certain town
Now I-
offices,
now I
as opposed to.
So this is geared to whether you can fit all of this stuff into part of the building.
Exactly, and also, this goes back to what I was saying about the other evaluations that were done with a very specific mandate, either, using the entire space, demolishing part of the building. This would open it up to being able to talk about, for example, utilizing maybe just the old media center part of the high school building, which is already, completely wired up, and it wouldn't interfere with the school department's use of the facility now. So things like that might be, I believe would be worth evaluating. And step one of that is to figure out what the needs are for square footage and workspace for the town departments. I would like for all the departments that are located again in the annex and here to in the town hall and the council on aging to, of course, to participate. But I would really like to encourage as much detail as possible from those who are located in the town annex, because I do, in my opinion anyway, it seems like that is the building that has the most concern currently.
Can I, just an opinion, I don't,
Absolutely.
that you might want to move the IT infrastructure and technology further down in the list, only because there's a lot of departments that are not going to know how to answer that question, and I find with these kind of things, when people get them and then they can't answer a question, they tend to stop. It stops all activity.
good.
They don't move forward, and I think we're going to have some departments that can't answer that, and then I foresee them not continuing on. Or maybe get rid of the please describe your current IT infrastructure, because we'll get that from our T person.
That's easy enough.
And then
okay.
just do the second two questions.
I think
Right,
that's
I
good.
think, I would agree with you that the first one would be,
You're gonna have people that are gonna stop moving forward once
Just
they
say
get
that.
that question.
Okay.
I think, my opinion.
No, that makes perfect sense. What my goal here is for this to be as open-ended as possible, but also, not so open-ended that people are going to get frustrated filling it out.
Right. No, I
So
agree.
that's,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
And also the idea is to put this just on just a Google survey, so people can just fill it out online as opposed to having to have a.
So Chris, my thought on it, I think the spatial analysis is something that's fairly easy to do for departments. Their office is too small, they want something bigger, they want to double what they have, that kind of stuff. Some of the other stuff is, it's like anything, it depends how you ask the question, right? And are they going to know the answers to some of these questions? And how valuable is that answer going to be? I just,
So, so there's a couple of things that I think that could be eliminated easily. But what I would, even if it was, for example, under the workspace challenges, even if it was just please list any issues that come, even if there was
Yeah.
a single question on that one, I do think it's important to put in a couple of questions about the old high school being considered, just because if somebody's, if they're, if the department head is vehemently opposed to ever going in that direction, would like to hear about it for sure. But
And then I think if we look at the old high school moving over there, do we put something in there to say, well, what improvements would you want at the high school in order to move over there? Because I think there'll be a general feeling that if we move to the high school, it's gonna be a new place, or it's gonna be updated and suitable for office and municipal use. If you're going from one classroom at the annex to another classroom at the high school, besides going to a bigger building, is there a big benefit?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I don't know, you've been in the annex, haven't you?
I have, and I've been in the old high school too, and, you know, every building has its own issues. The annex is tired and it's old, it's got a new roof, it's, you know,
It's wooden.
it's
I
wooden,
mean-
yeah, the accessibility is an issue there.
And we're talking about maintenance and stuff,
You know, you look at 160, 70,000 square foot building at the old high school too, there's a lot of maintenance there.
Well, look what paint and trim was gonna cost us over here.
And you get the same trim at the old high school, right? You walk in the front door, the trim is rotting around, that, you know, the columns going up. But I guess anything's doable, and I think we can make it work, but I just want to make the point that if we move to the high school, work has to be done there. Now, to what extent that work has to be done, I think is debatable, but
Huge.
it's not something that I've seen, at least based on the reports that we have, that we can just, like I said in the past, pick up our desk, move over to another office. Even if we do that, you need counter space, you need accessibility, for the general public, parking outside. You need handicap parking close to the door they're going to use. There's one elevator in the building. It's a great building, and it may work, but we
Well,
just
I don't
need to
know if
identify
you
the
remember
cost.
when my friend Hank Keating came and he said, look, a lot of these are great ideas. They're gonna cost money. There is no way around. Now, that's gonna be a tough pill for the whole, nobody in the town really knows that, I don't think. They probably just think that, well, maybe you could move the department in, moving trucks or sell it, or whatever. I don't think anybody, unless we've been listening to this, realizes quite how complicated the financial aspect of things going to be.
I think that the most crucial thing that this committee can do is to come up with as concrete a figure as we can possibly come up with for each potential option, but also have the figures that the town would be on the hook for if nothing is done, if there's no new building, if things stay status quo,
It's still going to cost money.
it's still going to cost money.
And that's what
And there's the only way you can truly evaluate it on a cost-benefit analysis is to see the figures all the way up.
Well, my feeling on that, on status quo, I mean, we're throwing good money into, you can't throw any more money into the annex. You got some good bones over there. If you start throwing money, plus we got stuff in there that we're using right now that we can't duplicate if we sell it. You got to add that cost to it if we decide not to use that building.
Yeah.
And we've already gone through all that stuff about why we built a new high school and why we don't do that. Well, we don't have to do that with a municipal building. I just think, we're gonna have some capital improvement just to move in there parking lot wise and stuff like that. I think the whole bones of the building and different things. I mean, the first thing I'd say is, you get the annex in there, in that section, and you got the building inspector there now. Now you evaluate everybody else that wants to go in there. It might take us a couple of years to get officers out of here. Different things.
I think
Move different proposals that we have. We might get more proposals once we did that.
Very true.
So the other thing we have to consider too is funding, right? Even if it's minimal funding. We have no capacity in our operating budget to pay for a move from the annex over to the high school. We have no capacity in our budget, once we get a couple of offices at the high school, to replace a couple of windows, or if the boiler goes at the high school, or if air conditioning needs to be done. We don't have that in our operating budget, so unless up front, this is one of the things we need to consider, no matter what we do, we're gonna have to get approval from town to say, listen, this pot of money, whether it's 1 million, 5 million, or 30 million, is gonna be dedicated towards making improvements to town hall annex or the high school or something. Otherwise, we can't do it out of our operating budget, and if our costs increase from the operating budget because we're now in a bigger building, or, you know, maybe we'll find out that just operating these two buildings is worse, but that's something we'll determine. But we don't have the capacity in our operating budget to function, to make it work.
Either
We
way.
need to get outside funding.
That's the,
Either
yeah,
way.
yeah.
And then, and the big thing is, you know, the value of the money, right? Right now, you stay in the annex, you stay here, maybe you buy another 2 years, maybe you buy 5 years, 10 years with a couple $100,000 worth of improvements. You go up to high school, you need the money fairly soon, right? Whether it's $1 million, $5 million, or $10 million. So we're gonna have to get that money up front where you can buy it at a time if you stay somewhere else. So
The other factor I think that's worth thinking about as far as where things stand right now is how feasible is it that the building could be immediately rented out in its current state to someone like UMass. You know, I know that had come up, or any other educational outfit. Is there a way to create any sort of revenue based on as it sits right now that does not hinder any long-term potential?
How were things left with UMass?
So yeah, there's still some interest there. I don't know how much interest. They're still working. And you know, anything like that, if you get another educational use to go in there, it's much easier than a different type of use.
But they're only interested in a small portion of the building as well, right? Right now.
Yes, we don't have a good feel for exactly what they're interested in. They're interested in a small portion, but they've also have some other buildings that they're working on as well, so.
And it's not
But-
the best use either.
You know, if you could get 200-300 students in there from, you know, a community college or UMass Dartmouth, and you keep the admin offices there, you know, it buys you time to do some of these studies, to look at this building, to look at the other one, and, you know, maybe that's an option, right?
My thinking is if there is a way to create even trickle of revenue based on how it is right now that does not interfere with any kind of long-term plans that we are coming up with, that's something that we should probably try to move on. I mean, I
I
don't know
think
if-
that's the same kind of thing that we could do with moving the annex. We move the annex, that's our worst building right now. Move them in there, do some painting. I've talked to the nurse, she'd love to be in that nurse's station over there. I mean, just start utilizing that piece right now. Get the building inspector in there so he can move forward with that. Get rid of the annex, stop the bleeding over there, and then, you know, maybe that's not where it's gonna stay forever. Maybe they would put a building behind this later, but at least a worse property we own right now that could be developed by somebody else and get on the tax rolls, that would, I mean, I think you'd get more money on something being developed over there later on than would actually get, because most of the stuff on getting rid of the high school was nonprofit stuff, you know, and somebody's gonna come in, we're gonna put the housing aspect, like they did in Okeechobee Village. I mean, I don't see that as a win.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, anybody that comes in to reuse the site, you're talking, what, $20 million in
We're talking millions just
demolition
for,
costs
yeah, just for
alone,
the demo.
right?
it.
So,
I
yeah.
mean, that was some of the talk from Master Plan Review Committee was demo it and donate it. We don't have money to do what we're doing now, how can we do that?
Yeah. So just to follow up on Alex's question, so is there's still interest from UMass, but kind of on hold right now, or is there?
We met with them
Just
once
never
over
know.
there, and they're still investigating.
Okay.
But like I said, they have a place in Dartmouth. Yeah, they're still seeing if it can work. And what we told them, it's got to be turnkey, right? Because we don't have the ability to really offer custodial services. We don't have the
Yeah.
ability to offer security services so that the students go to the right class. I mean, there's a lot involved in making something like that work.
Way back when, I made a statement, and we actually talked with the superintendent, because I said, you know, until we know whether we're gonna need more classroom spaces 2 to 3, 5 years down the road, we should not get rid of that school. This is when there was a lot of discussion about getting rid of the school. Sort of that same concern, you know, we talked about it, whether the superintendent was gonna develop some stuff. I suspect he hasn't, but because the committee didn't press him on it. That's still a question that needs to be cranked into any kind of use. So for instance, if you've got one of these other schools, you'd have to seriously think about either lease it to them, but you're not gonna sell it to them because you might need it back in 5 years.
Oh, I think the consensus is, we can't, we're gonna need that for whatever. And we're not gonna get that piece of property back. It's centrally located, that we need to keep it. I mean, this survey, I would hope that the school department would add into that. You know, I mean, now you move recreation, there's a lot of uses that will continue. And one of the things, I mean, I wasn't on the new building committee, but they determined that that was the best way to remodel the building was gonna, we wouldn't get as much money to do the project. So if at some point down the road, 20 years, 30 years, we need another school, we're gonna need to build another school. Because that's gonna be the way we're gonna get the best payback.
Right.
And where we could do the municipal buildings in this and evolve into this. That's what I would hope that we would go.
So when the school building committee looked at that school, right or wrong, they made the determination that it was more cost effective to build a new school than to rehab that school and add an addition. And they also made the determination that it's not conducive to modern educational use. Doesn't mean it can't be used for educational purposes, but it's just not, and could be used for the next 50 years.
Yeah, you've got different aspects of it you can. I mean, we got the fields, we got the gymnasium, we got all the other stuff. I mean, I think it's would be phenomenal for recreation. I mean, there's a lot of different departments that could use that building. Seniors. I mean, and when I was talking to Senior Center, they're not looking, they don't want to get rid of the Senior Center right now because that would help them by keeping that and the stuff that would need the upgrades for handicap. And they would still use that there and expand over here.
I think it's, the COA, if they have their supported day program, they already have that, you know, I think the capacity issues there often come from other programs that are
Right,
utilizing the
classes
space
that
at the
they
same
have,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So.
They do a lot of exercise programs and whatnot, and they really don't have the space in the current location, but like supportive day and some of the other programs are fine, but they would like to expand some of their programs, which they can't do there.
Yeah, and I think I think there's clearly a consensus that, you know, this needs to be a part of the town going forward, the old high school,
And even that school property, you know, we're short on cemetery space long-term. We need additional cemetery space. It's adjacent to the cemetery that's on Reed Road. I mean, so
Yeah.
eventually, 10 years from now, they could take over that school property, the COA building, and utilize that for cemetery, and they could acclimate in total up into the other building.
Just at the risk of repeating, I would just want to make it clear to your earlier point as well, the reason I even put something in there about selling it is just so that when we present recommendations to the town, they know
Right.
this is why, this
Right.
makes no sense whatsoever to sell
Right.
it, but anyway,
Right.
but that's, yeah.
And I think we talked about, there's 4 main options, right? There's one, kind of do nothing, just continue as we are, the school admin stays, it's the do nothing option. Second option is just to sell it, and then there's different options if we sell it. Is it gonna be used for public housing, is it gonna be used for private use, whatever they wanna do when we sell it. You got the demolish option, and if we demolish it, do you keep the land or do you sell the land? And then use it for municipal type offices. So you get, those are the 4 main things that we do, and those are the 4 things we need to evaluate. And then each one of those has a couple of subcategories underneath it. But each one has a dollar sign, and until you get the
Well, I
dollar
know-
sign, you can't.
There you go.
I know the new municipal building's going up, and it's the last count was $800.
Yeah, $800 plus a square foot. And
Yeah.
it's going up from, I think, 500 something.
With
a
the
year
months,
ago
it's
when we
gone
listened
up
to
Nuts,
basically.
yes,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
crazy.
gonna be worse, so.
Yeah.
Now with this new code that's coming out, I mean, that's, you know, we're talking about the upgrades on, already what we built the other high schools, forget about it.
Not to get too far off the tangent, but has there been any rulings on the new energy code thing, or is that still up in the air as far as?
I
how-
thought they adopted something already, I don't know if everybody.
Oh,
did.
I know there was a code adopted, but there was still
Not all
questions as to
towns
how
are
it was
on
gonna
board
be.
or something, yeah, I don't
How
know
it's
yet.
gonna be implemented, so. Okay. Well,
So your survey, you want approval of the survey?
or the, or I think it does need, after taking everybody's feedback here, I do think it can be streamlined a little bit and also made to, you know, the point is not to overwhelm the department heads and get them to, you know,
And
take too much time doing this, but also want it to be open-ended enough that they can,
it's gonna go to the school too, right?
it is gonna go, absolutely gonna go to the school department as well, so. I think,
I mean, that
I
daycare
may-
that's in there and.
I would probably modify it a little bit specifically for the school department, I think.
I think under the old high school, number 6, old high school consideration,
Mhm.
I think following along Ann's comment, the last dot there on the 3rd page, how would the IT infrastructure at the old high school need
Yeah.
to be modified? They would have
Cross that out, yeah.
they would
Yeah.
have no way of knowing what it currently is.
Okay.
And that information we can get from the IT dude.
Right.
He, in our walkthrough, he said it was, we plug in and go.
Yeah.
That's what he said, so, I mean, we can get that from him.
I think leaving the part like, is it on a scale of 1 to 10, are you happy? Or, I mean, that's always, I think they're all gonna say they're unhappy, but it's worth
Right.
putting it in writing, I
It's
suppose.
worth having it, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, it's giving the opportunity for feedback
Yeah,
Yeah.
is important, I
Yeah.
think, here, so.
And every
But,
department will appreciate the fact that they're being asked for.
Yes.
input.
Yes,
yes.
yes, absolutely. So I will say, this is not, I would not consider this as time certain or time sensitive as getting the RFP up, so I can
Okay.
go back and edit this again, and we can talk about it at our next meeting for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
Perfect.
good deal.
And if you would like, I mean, if there's a period of time that's gone by and there are certain departments that you haven't heard from, I'd be happy to follow up with some of those that haven't filled them out and maybe walk through with them or whatnot, so.
That's gonna be real helpful.
And, and as in my capacity as finance committee member, and, you know, having the liaison with certain departments anyway, I was
Right.
thinking that might be
Right,
able to
that would be a good
kill two
connection
birds
as
with
well.
one stone,
Right.
yeah, so.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
That happens to me all the time.
All right, well, I
thought we
would
ended
ask,
off.
then, if perhaps we might, not have a meeting next week, but then 2 weeks
Yeah.
from tonight,
Sure.
if that's agreeable for everyone.
And you're gonna
So-
work with Jim to get the proposal out?
Yes, and I'll
Good.
make sure that it gets circulated with the committee before,
Okay,
just to make sure there's no last minute issues anyone has.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Any topics not reasonably anticipated?
Public, if they wanna have any comment?
Nope.
Just have a quick question. Could you move just single departments rather than whole buildings if you had to? Or is that gonna have issues with your cleaning service and all that stuff?
That's a good point too, right? So if we move, yeah, I
Don't
have
wanna
one
have-
maintenance staff
we don't
here
need
that cleans this
another-
building and the other one.
Take care of it.
Oh, we're taking care of it now. That's the key fact. We do.
No, but what I mean is, we don't want to be keeping care of both the high school and the annex.
Yeah.
Like, so it's either all of it or
yeah,
none
so
of
it'd
it.
be good if the annex could just,
I mean, one thing, we got a tenant in the annex too, don't we?
We do.
Cut it.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, that's right, Connewauk School. There's a nursery school down, daycare center in the basement of that building. But is that a year-to-year lease?
It's a 3-year. We do a 3-year. I'd have to read the lease. There may be a provision where we can back out.
Well,
Well,
maybe
that
ask
would
them
be-
if they
if
wanna
they
wanna
do an
buy
it.
RFP and buy it from us. Might be worse to
I'll
do
give you a
the
good
lease.
deal.
You know, that raises another question. Remember we went through the tour,
Yeah,
walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden these little kids came running out of the wall, and everybody said like, who are they? What are they?
They're extended day,
Extended day.
But are
extended
they
day,
part of the school system?
yes.
Is the school paying for those rooms? Security?
They're not paying for them, the select board gave them the,
I'm just
authority to
asking, I'm
be
just
able to-
asking, I mean, there's.
No, and they said that they can expand on that.
Right.
Like, they-
I think that's that generates an income,
it
doesn't
does
it?
generate a little bit of money. Well,
Not a
yes.
lot, no.
I think if they had to rent their own building, it wouldn't generate
No.
money, but because they have.
So it
free
does
space.
generate some money.
Yes.
You have to pay
Right,
for extra,
something, but, yeah.
extra.
To the school department and not the.
It's like the council on aging, though, if they kept the other building, they said that doesn't have any cost to the town anyway. Is what she's saying, they
Yeah.
cover it themselves.
That,
I had inquired of
Yeah.
the superintendent about any security or safety issues that they would have, given that they have small children, young children in that building, and if it were occupied by a public building. And he said as long as there were provisions worked out that they could secure a part of the building, that the public would not have access to it. So, so that would have to be worked out. Because they would want to continue with that program. I don't know, they must bus them, right, from whatever school? I don't know how the children get to the school. I didn't ask him that.
one bus route, my guess is one bus route takes them
from
up
the
and
school,
takes them to
drops
the school, to
drops
that
them
school,
off.
then continues its bus route.
But I was concerned whether or not they had security issues, like now you're gonna have a public building, a public
Well,
access.
I was
building.
concerned about, I mean, we've got a building that's 50 years old, it doesn't meet code for a school. So,
Well, it didn't,
Well,
it didn't until 2 years ago
but
either.
I,
It does meet code for the school, right, because the use isn't changing. It's an educational use.
I actually asked that inspect, the code, that isn't exactly, you get a lot of exemptions because it remains, but nowadays you couldn't,
No, it's a new.
As a
As
new
a
facility.
facility.
even as a user.
You
It's a
should,
continue-
You'd have to sprinkle it.
you should
It's a
see the
continued
you
use
should
though,
see the
right?
daycare in the annex, in the
I'm
basement.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I went in there when we had.
Just on that point,
problems
it's a
with plumbing down
continued
there. It's
educational
kinda-
use,
if we're
right? They
gonna
haven't
worry about
abandoned
we
that
got a little
use,
more
so
of a
I think they,
liability there.
my understanding is they
I
can
understand you
continue.
Water health, the toilets were.
Is it ideal?
flowing
No.
Over down there, it's,
Bacteria, the mold.
Okay, well,
Would I send my kid there?
all right, well, that is the entirety of the agenda, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, yeah.
Second.
Second. Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.